Hello and welcome to today's video. If the title didn't give it away, then my makeup certainly will. Today we're gonna do the blush tag, so why don't we go ahead and get into it. Okay, as we get started, I am super distracted by this makeup. I've never done a blush draping technique like this. It's a lot for my eyes to handle. And also, I tried to do bushy brows today. I have no idea what I'm doing. It just feels like crunchy. I use the Benefit, the clear mascara, the brow mascara they have. If you have any tips for using that, let me know, because it's interesting. But anyways, today's blush tag, I actually don't know the creator of it because I think it's been around for a really long time. I recently saw Too Much Tosh do this, and I will link as many other videos as I can kind of link and find in the description box. Okay, there are 14 questions for this tag, and question number 1 is, what is your blush with the best packaging? For me, I honestly don't feel like I have blushes that have like great packaging. For the most part, the only blush that I have that has like the color where you can see through it is this Physicians Formula one, but I by far would never say this is good packaging because look how bulky this thing is. Not to mention that occasionally I've had like the butter bronzer version of this packaging breaks a little bit easily, so then you can't like keep the lid actually closed. I'm just kind of waiting for this one to break eventually. So while I don't love any of my blush packaging, I think maybe if I have to pick a winner, I'll go with, I have a Ofra blush trio, their midi blush palettes that they have, and it has like a bronzer, a blush, and a highlight in it, and that one is a nice, like, it's a nice slim component. I'm having to insert a photo for this one because half of my blushes are back home in storage. I wanted to kind of keep a smaller collection here just to kind of work on and make progress on, and then some of my favorite blushes are back at home, which, by the way, out of a bunch of the items that I have back at home in storage, I desperately miss my blushes. I really enjoy blush. So yeah, the Ofra midi blush palettes that they have, the little 3 ones, if you ever see like a good color story that you like, I actually think they're really nice. The packaging's nice. They're very travel friendly. They're super pigmented blushes, almost on the side of pigment that I would not prefer. I don't love a super highly pigmented blush. I would prefer something that's more buildable, and that one just edges or tiptoes that line. So yeah, wrap it up, Dylan. The answer to that question is maybe if I have to choose, the Ofra palettes are pretty nice. All right, question number 2, what's your blush with the prettiest color? And for that one, I'm going with one from another palette. I have a lot of face palettes and I really enjoy them, so you're gonna see quite a bit of them in here. This next one is from my Stila. This is the Perfect Me Perfect Hue Tan Deep palette. I picked this up from TJ Maxx a while back, but it has this beautiful like coral blush in it, and it's kind of like coral / orange, and I love the way this looks on my skin tone. I'm not wearing it today, but it's just a stunning blush, and I really enjoy more orange leaning blushes. So this is one, when I heard that prompt, this is the one that immediately came to my mind. So this one is actually the shade Vibrant from Stila. All right, question number 3, what's your most pigmented blush? That for me is one that I have in storage at home, mostly because it's a very large palette. It's a BH, I think it was the Glamorous Blush palette. And that thing is full of, it has a couple neutral shades in it, it has some bright reds, it has some purples. I remember when I first got that one, I didn't have much blush in my collection at all, and I thought that, oh, this will be all the blush that I ever need. Little did I know that that blush palette is so pigmented, like honestly too pigmented for me. I've ruined a mini of makeup look going in to use that palette, like not having knocked off my brush enough, not having like rubbed it on the back of my hand and tried to like get some of the pigment off, and gone in way too heavy on my blush. So that one for me is one that I probably should declutter. I have issues letting it go, but it is definitely, it's like too pigmented for me. Okay, question number 4, what's an everyday blush for you? And for me, I think the one that I thought about the most was this newer one to me. I got this at the end of last year. This is the Natasha Denona Diamond and Blush palette, and I love this kind of like pinky goldy kind of shade. It's not a flat matte kind of shade, but it's also not super pigmented, definitely more buildable. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. It's softer, if you can tell, so I can go really light with it and just kind of give myself a flush. I can build it up if I want a more intense pink blush, but it's just pink enough, and I feel like it suits my skin tone very well. So this is one that I could seriously like reach for probably every day for the rest of my life and be very happy with that being my blush. Okay, moving into question number 5, what's a blush that you wear to parties? And while I love a good eyeshadow look, which if I do a colorful eyeshadow look, I will do a nuder, kind of more toned down blush, but also I tend to wear to parties like bright, colorful lipsticks because it's just fun. It's a good excuse to wear it. So for me, I always reach for like a more bronzy kind of blush when I wear like red lipsticks or any other colorful lipsticks. And the one that I recently just got came to mind. This is Becca's Wild Honey. There's a swatch of it right here. You can tell it very, very much looks like almost like it could work as a bronzer shade. And I find that it's just a very nice, it could complement so many different looks. I could wear pretty much any like color on my lips that I wanted to. And I could probably wear any like bold eyeshadow look too and it would work. So this is probably one of the more neutral slash more warmer tone blushes in my collection, but this is definitely one that I would easily grab for any look that I would want to wear to a party. Okay, question number 6, what's a blush that you regret? For me, we're gonna circle back to that BH Cosmetics palette. While I didn't spend a ton of money on it, I believe I got it from Ross for like $6 or so. I just realized that it's just not the kind of blushes that I like to use. Now, I give myself a lot of credit for like, I bought it early on. I didn't know that yet. I hadn't gotten really into panning yet. And I've just learned so much about my preferences since then. And I realize now when I look at the blushes that are new to my collection, I've gotten so much better at getting blushes that like fit my color stories that I like to wear. And they're buildable blushes, which means that I know how to work with them. So for me, that one was one that definitely was not a smart purchase. Even though I don't beat myself up for it, I do regret it. All right, number 7, what is your least used blush? And I'm really surprised. I was looking at all of my pictures of my blushes, even the ones in storage, and I think one of the ones that it's so beautiful and it's in storage at home, it's Benefit's, I think it's Helvana. I think that's the name of it. If it's not, I'll put it up on the screen, but it's one of their boxed blushes, and it's got this kind of like neutral pink, slightly cool tone leaning blush in it. It's a very light shade. It's definitely more buildable. I really find myself liking it, but for whatever reason, the packaging of the Benefit blushes, I constantly forget to reach for them. It's just, I don't see the colors of it in the like cardboard packaging. And then also it's just kind of bulky and annoying, and I rarely reach for the packaging of it, even though I really do like the shade. Plus, that was a blush that I bought while I was in Sweden, and then when I decided to take makeup home, I was like, it's bulkier, so I just left it at home since some of my other blushes are like easier to transport. But now that I think about it, I didn't really get to use that one that much before I sent it home to put it in storage. So that was probably one of my least used ones, but at the same time, I bet if I got it out, it would be one of those ones that I could wear every day. I just need to play with it more and I really miss it. Okay, moving into question number 8, what's your most used slash the one you would never let go of? For me, that's my Laura Geller blushes. I actually have this palette and then I have 2 other like single Laura Geller blushes. And honestly, you would have to pry them from my dead hands. I love the Laura Geller blush formula so much. I love a baked blush so much. I just find that the little bit of sheen that they give to your cheeks and the fact that they're a little bit more buildable is like perfect for me. And these shades here, specifically in this palette, are just outstanding. This has the shade Pink Grapefruit, Honeysuckle. This one's more bronzy kind of shade. This one's bronzy but leans a little pink, and then Bora Bora slash Maui in the center here. It's like this beautiful coral shade. I freaking love these blushes so much. And I did a horrible job swatching there, but I really freaking love these blushes so much. I would never give them up. Like, I will be the person like 10, 15 years from now, if I still have these blushes left in my collection, they're still hanging around, I'm still gonna be like, they're still good, they're not expired, I'm still using them on my face. Just don't look if you are bothered by it, because like I will never stop wearing these. These are such a beautiful formula. Also, before we go on to the next question, if you have tried Laura Geller blushes and you have tried another like drugstore formula, please let me know. I was devastated when Ulta stopped carrying Laura Geller blushes because I love them so much. I really want to know if the Milani ones are really similar. I just haven't bought any Milani shades yet because I feel like mostly what they have in their baked range, while they're beautiful, I feel like I have the shades, so I just won't let myself buy it yet. But in the future, I feel like that formula would be really comparable to the Laura Geller formula. So if you've tried both, let me know so that I know if Milani is an avenue that I need to eventually venture down, if that makes sense. All right, now we can go into the next question. Number 9, what is your favorite blush brand? For me, that's Laura Geller, like I just said, but I also have new favorites. Well, not new favorites. I guess I should just say other favorites. This is my Essence Satin Love blush in the Satin Touch formula. I love these Essence blushes so much, and I've had to like fight the urge to go buy more Essence blushes just because I think the price point is just unbeatable and the quality of these blushes tends to be so good. I love this Satin Love shade so much, and even though the packaging was awful on this, I actually have this shade on in my crease quite a bit today, and then I worked it a little bit up here on my temples. I've never worn blush on my temples, so it's a little much for me, but I actually just think this shade, it goes with so much. This is another everyday shade, such a nice, like, wearable, very pigmented, really soft satin appearance. I know that if you've been on YouTube, you've seen people talk about that formula a million times. Such a good formula. And then another one this year that I tried was the Fenty Cream formulas. I love this formula so much. I want to pick up more from Fenty. This one here in Fuego Flush is just beautiful. Take a little bit on like my sponge and like tap it over my cheeks, just gives a little nice orangey glow. And you've already heard me say that I love orangey kind of blushes. This one here was one of the only blushes I've paid full price for in my collection, and I have no regrets despite it being like such a tiny little blush. Like, I just love the shade of it so much that I don't care that I spent $20 on it. Okay, moving into question number 10, what's the best blush discovery of last year? And I think I bought this last year. I'm pretty sure that I got to know this product in 2020, so I'm gonna count it that way. This is the Butter Blush in Natural Glow from Physicians Formula. Rebecca Morgan is the person who sold me on this blush. I saw her panning it, and I wanna say her Relit Pan collab project pan, and she talked about this blush in terms of it doesn't have a lot of pigment. She's very right. It really offers a very slight pigment. If anything, it offers a little bit of a glow, like a baked blush kind of gives your cheeks. So on days where I want to just have like a very bronzy complexion and I bring my bronzer up a little further onto my cheeks, I top it off with this. Beautiful. Also, if I end up going a little bit too overboard with my blush, I can take this, go over it, and kind of blend it out. Beautiful. This blush here was one of the better discoveries for me last year, because I was like, well, if I have a matte blush and I'm just not digging my matte blush look, I can use this product and it just transforms it for me without having to use a highlighter. Sometimes highlight can be a little too much and kind of emphasize that my pores and stuff on my cheeks, but this doesn't do that, but it gives that glow or that healthy look to my cheeks that I like. So this one last year by far is one of my favorite ones that I found, besides the Fenty one that I also like love. All right, question number 11, what's your most practical blush? And for me, again, I'm gonna come back to this Hollywood blushing trio from Laura Geller. Any kind of like again, I'm such a sucker for face palettes, but face palette like this that gives me like a more bright blush, and then like like a cool tone kind of blush, and then like a bronzy blush. Such a good shade selection, and if I were to ever pick up more blush palettes in the future, it would be something like this. I also have a Tarte blush palette that is super practical. Well, it's a little larger, so maybe if you're thinking travel practical wise, not the best, but if you're looking for like a blush palette that is going to serve a lot of like purposes, and that way you don't have to have a larger blush collection, that was one of the first blush palettes that I bought myself, and I think that palette is fantastic. I love the shades in it. I don't use the highlights that often, but I think the other blush formulas that you get in there are great. I like the Tarte Amazonian Clay formula, and that little blush palette, the Tarte, I think it was the Blush Bazaar from 2019. That's the one I'm talking about. It's a very nice blush palette, and it's super practical for someone like me, especially if you love to like have variety of blushes. That's one that I think the Tarte blush palettes that they put out from time to time tend to be pretty good. Okay, that leads us to question number 12, what's your least practical blush product? And for me, again, I'm gonna bring up that BH Cosmetics palette, because not only is it gigantic, but the colors in there are definitely a little too pigmented for like easy use, and it's definitely like it has some like purples and bright reds and stuff that you wouldn't really wear with just any look. They're very specific kind of looks, and my gut kind of says that maybe that palette is meant for people with deeper skin tones, not meant for someone who's pale like me, and I just didn't know that at the time. But yeah, that one's definitely one that's not very practical. I don't get a lot of use out of that one. All right, we're nearing the end. Last two questions here. Question number 13, what's your most expensive blush? And I'm gonna answer Fenty blush. I mean, obviously I have a Natasha Denona blush that is, the palette itself is very expensive, but you get more product in that palette, if that makes sense. This little guy is so tiny, and I paid full price for it. Again, $20 for these little bitty little cream blushes from Fenty. This is probably proportionally more expensive than any other blush item that I own, but this guy here, again, I love it. I don't have it. I'm surprised to say that, because I am a frugal person, very, very frugal, like extremely frugal. So the fact that I have paid so much money for this little bit of product that you get, not upset at all by it, because I really freaking love it. And that brings us to the last question, question number 14. What's your least expensive blush? And for me, that is my Essence one that I've already kind of mentioned. I believe these are $2.99 on Ulta, and you can, like, if you have other stuff in your cart, which who doesn't, we can use coupons and that kind of thing on them. And then occasionally they have sales. So I believe I got 20% off of this guy. Yeah, this is by far my cheapest blush. Such a good one. I really, really enjoy the blush formula, again, from Essence, and I probably will buy more from in the future just because I think they're fantastic. Okay, so technically that's the end of the blush actual tag, the questions that come in it, but Too Much Tosh at the end of her video asked, what's your most unique blush? And I wanted to kind of throw my answer out too, so technically there's a 15th question, I guess, but my most unique blush, I thought about this, and it probably is between the Physicians Formula one, since it's kind of doesn't really offer much pigment, it mostly offers a little bit of glow. This one or this one right here. This is Rose Fresh by Lancome, and this is just such a beautiful mauve blush. I don't have a ton of mauve blushes in my collection, and I think that this is a decent, nice one. Now, it is matte, which is not my favorite, but at the same time, you can tell that I've enjoyed it because I have hit pan on it. I think that when I go to it and do a cool tone look, this is like my go-to blush, and for that reason, I think it goes with pretty much any cool tone look that I do. So I'll say that mostly it's unique, not necessarily unique in terms of like when you compare it to other blushes, it's not that unique, but in my collection, since I have a lot of warm pinky peachy colors, I don't have a lot of mauves, this one is probably my best mauve unique cool tone blush, if that makes sense. Again, I think I swatched right there if you can see it. But yeah, that's my most unique, this one or the Physicians Formula ones. But yeah, that's gonna wrap it up for today. Let me know in the comments what you think. Let me know if you have any favorite blushes. Again, if you have an answer to my Milani versus Laura Geller blush formula, let me know, because I need to know if the Milani formula is similar to the Laura Geller formulas. I love a baked blush, but I don't know if all baked blushes are created equal, and I would like for you and your collective brain to let me know. Anyways, make sure you say hello, and I will see you in the next one. Bye.